Woo! It's the playoffs. Let's go, baby. Can Doug Peterson lead his Jacksonville Jaguars on the road against the number one seed Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead? This is On the Block Sports Chiefs. Thank you for joining. My name is Anthony, and this is On the Block Sports Chiefs. Now, if you haven't, go ahead and follow me at Anthony D. Hatton 2. That'll be right here on the screen, somewhere down below me. But let's go ahead and get into this. Who is excited for the playoffs and some postseason Chiefs action? Let's chat a little bit here about the 9-8 Jaguars who are visiting Arrowhead to face the 14-3 Chiefs. Coming out of Wild Card Weekend, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, they were the number one seed, which means they had a first round bye. The Jaguars, on the other hand, they had a magnificent, an exciting game where they had a 27-0 comeback win versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So with that being said, the Jaguars are going to be coming in believing they can do anything. Facing the number one Kansas City Chiefs is really not going to be something that is going to present many of issues just because of who the Chiefs are, at least not in the Jaguars' mind. The last game that they played against each other earlier this season, the Chiefs won 27-17, and that was overcoming a 3-0 turnover deficit. Patrick Mahomes threw an interception, and then also there were 2 fumbles lost. The Jaguars didn't turn the ball over at all. And they also had an extra possession, if you remember, by doing that onside kick on the very first play of the game. With that, the Chiefs still won 27-17. Doug Peterson, I want to go ahead and touch into this a little bit because that's the headlines. Andy Reid, who is the Grand Pumbaa here, Doug Peterson is from the Andy Reid coaching tree. He's done a magnificent job. Of course, we all know that he had won the Super Bowl as the coach in Philadelphia. But now Doug Peterson has flipped some things around for the Jaguars. He's got their offense looking good, their top 10 offensive team in the NFL, and they flipped from being the number one pick in the NFL draft to now being in the AFC Divisional round of the playoffs. That is just crazy in its own. So we all know that's going to be the Andy Reid versus Doug Peterson discussion. Let's go ahead and touch also on a couple injuries. For the Chiefs, Mecole Hardman, he is ruled out with his abdomen pelvic injury that we don't really know exactly what's going on with yet. We just know he's not doing the best as far as his health. At least he's not doing good enough to be playing in a playoff game. That speaks volumes. Who's also out? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jody Fortson, Marcus Kemp. Those are players that were not activated from the injured reserve list. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there was some chatter this week about how he might be available, but it does not look like he will suit up, at least in this one. For the Jaguars, they have a few people who are out, a couple people actually, that are on injured reserve. Offensive tackle Cam Johnson and also cornerback Shaquille Griffin. Both of those players are out, of course, because they are on injured reserve. But all the people who were listed as questionable, who may have put up limited participation for the Jaguars in practice, are all expected to play. Trevor Lawrence, everybody else, they're all expected to play. So both teams, for the most part, are as healthy as you can be at this point in the season. Now let's also touch into the numbers because we want to break down each, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars, at least a little bit from this statistical standpoint. For the offenses, points per game, of course, yards per game, and passing yards per game are all number one for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the best in the league at it. Now, points per game. Each team has averaged around 27 points per game over the past few weeks. The Chiefs, they are number one in the league as far as passing yards, as I said before. The only team with over 400 yards total as well. that they average each and every single week. For the rushing yards, the Jaguars are number 15th in the league at 124 rushing yards per game. Both teams are pretty similar in the last few weeks, as each team has averaged around 100 yards on the ground, but the Jaguars have been a much better rushing team throughout the season. For the Jaguars, I think what their offensive game plan will be, as we now speak into the numbers a little bit, they're going to take their chances. As we mentioned before, Doug Peterson's a head coach. He has a history at pulling a rabbit out of his hat. So I think the Jaguars, they're going to be aggressive. They're going to probably come out and do something crazy with trick plays, going for more often than not on fourth downs, anytime it's a manageable or not an obvious punting situation. I think the Jaguars are going to be aggressive and take their chances. For the Chiefs, don't have any turnovers. As I said before, they were down 3-0 in the turnover margin the last time that they faced the Jaguars. I definitely expect them to be more careful with the ball. And an X factor, Kadarius Toney without no Mecole Hardman, I think he is going to be the guy that's Andy Reid has had a chance to draw up nice, slick plays, and we've seen it in action. Now he's had 2 weeks to go ahead and prepare and implement Kadarius Toney a little bit more. That's a weapon I think that teams are going to be very much exposed to in the playoffs. For the defenses of each team, for the Jaguars, they are better at allowing fewer points per game. They allow 21.1, whereas the Chiefs allow 21.7. So they're both pretty much identical, both in the middle of the pack. Each team, though, for the last few weeks has allowed only about 16 points per game to opponents. So what you see here are both the Chiefs and the Jaguars defenses trending in the right direction for the playoffs. The Chiefs have allowed fewer yards per game in every area for the most part. They have allowed 10th best at 328 yards per game in the NFL, which I was surprised to see because the Chiefs defense, they always seem like they give up a lot, but they don't really give up an absurd amount of points or an absurd amount of yards. So that is something that I think will play in the Chiefs' favor. Each team are pretty similar in as far as the production that their defenses have given them in the past few weeks. For the Jaguars, as we said before, they are trending in the right direction. I think what they're going to want to do in this game is get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. That should be the number one goal. Of course, you don't want to just blitz him all the time because we've seen Patrick pick apart the blitz time and time again. But the Jaguars, they were non-existent with the pressure the last time they faced each other. So I think it's something that you definitely want to at least get in the face of Patrick Mahomes and don't let him just stand back there and do what he does, because that's a recipe for disaster if you're the Jaguars. For the Chiefs, they are trending in the right direction also on their defense. The big thing here is they just don't want to give up any big plays. You can play a bend but don't break defense, largely because I think the Chiefs' offense is going to put up a lot of points, and you don't want to let Duval just come in here and think they have a chance to win. So the Chiefs' defense, keep the Jaguars out of the end zone. You can give up field goals. You can let them have long drives. Whatever it is, just don't let them score touchdowns. Overall, Kansas City has a much better offense and a comparative defense. I think the Chiefs, they get more pressure and they get more sacks, as these statistics have shown throughout the year. They're one of the top teams as far as getting sacks, and they have Chris Jones, who is just dominant as always. The Chiefs, I think, in this game specifically, their success and their history is going to shine. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, every position of value, Kansas City just seems to be more talented. They have elite talent superstars at key positions that you need to win. Jacksonville, they are a team with a lot of promise. Doug Peterson, he may be the coach of the year from the turnaround that he's done with the Jaguars, going from the number one pick in the NFL draft to now being in the AFC divisional round of the playoffs facing the Kansas City Chiefs. What a start to finish that the Jaguars have had. So with that being said, I just don't think the Jaguars have gotten to the level where they are actually going to come away victorious in this game. It's in Arrowhead in the playoffs. And I think the Jaguars, maybe next year or the next season after, they can truly be a Super Bowl contender, but not today. The Chiefs, they win at home, and this one I'm going to say 33-24. Now, the Chiefs defense, I think they're going to do just enough to keep the Jaguars from blowing the roof off the scoreboard. The Chiefs offense, I feel like they're going to be finely tuned. They're going to be aggressive, and they won't turn the ball over, which means the Chiefs are going to come away with a home win and make another run at an AFC championship game. Everybody, I want to say thank you for joining. This is On the Block Sports Chiefs. Follow me again on Twitter at Anthony D. Hatton 2. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Will the Chiefs come away with the victory? And what is going to be the most important thing about this game? Go ahead and give me some feedback. And until next time, see you around.